Did you make a decision to go for an MBA program while you were at Caltech?
Yeah, not many people do MBAs coming out of Caltech. I wanted to do a PhD in computer science and machine learning, and I was visiting these professors and talking to them. I talked about, what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I want to build something, I want to make a difference, and they were like, that sounds like an MBA.
Speaking of Caltech, I have to ask this question.
Yeah.
How much was Big Bang Theory an influence on you?
I saw Big Bang Theory. Honestly, I just wanted to be around really smart people that are building really cool things. I wanted to work for physics stuff, like astronomy, do some rockets. MIT or Caltech will get me those kind of people.
I know about GSB. How does it feel to be here?
At Stanford, I think everyone I've talked to is thinking more about people. I think people are more interested in how can we change, not to use our motto, but change organization. How can you change lives?
When you were applying to MBA program, did you even think about it?
Honestly, the reason why I wanted to do the MBA was I felt that I was...
Ayooluwa, welcome to MBA Odyssey.
Thank you, happy to be here.
I think we met each other first it was in Japan, I think. Exactly, the global study trip in Japan. And I really enjoyed the conversations we've had, and ever since I was thinking maybe we should do this.
It's an honor to be on your show. I've watched everyone else's episodes and I was like, yay, when I found out that I was going to be on. So.
That's awesome. Thank you for being here. So you have a very interesting mixed background where ethnically, racially, where you were born, where you've lived. Just give us a quick rundown of that.
So my parents are Nigerian, but I was born in Luxembourg, actually in a castle, really random. And then we moved to Canada, and then we moved to Guelph, Ontario. Then we moved to Auburn, Alabama, actually Tuskegee first and then Auburn. And then we moved to Columbia, Missouri. I was there until college, and then I moved out to California for school, and I've been here pretty much ever since.
That's a crazy run.
Yeah.
What is the internal feeling you have? Where are you from?
I think despite the fact I've moved around so much, I actually really do strongly identify with Nigeria, so I do consider myself Nigerian. I do know I'm very American, and a lot of the things I do practically, I'm very culturally American, but I do think that identity-wise, I would say I'm Nigerian.
In Nigeria, so each tribe has its own language. There are hundreds of languages, if I'm not mistaken, in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Have you been there, by the way?
We'll be there this year.
Okay. So you'll be able to tell me a little bit more about it.
Yes. And it's funny because a lot of people are like, if you haven't been, why do you feel so tied?
So when you say you haven't lived there, you haven't been there, but still you identify as Nigerian, I kind of understand that.
Yeah.
We have a proverb in Persian that says, the soil or the dirt pulls. So if your soil is from there, if your dirt is from there, if the soil that was taken to make you, basically, in that proverb, that's how how it's conceptualized. It pulls you back. Yeah, it pulls you toward itself. So there's a gravitational force. There is some sort of a belonging that you might feel towards those origins. So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But which one do you remember the most? Which one was would you say was more formative in your upbringing? Obviously American, but then you were in Canada for a long while, and then within the US you were in Alabama and Missouri and then California. What do you think?
And then moving to Alabama for me was honestly one of the most pivotal moments of my life, because I'm moving from a super green, super liberal town to Southern Christian, super very Southern, stereotypical Southern school. And that is where I really came face to face with the idea of race, identity, strong political views, because Canada is really chill about things like that, and the US is extreme on that. And I really had to find where I fit into the US demographic split that they have.
Yes. You went to high school in Alabama, or?
Yeah, so I did 7th grade through 10th grade in Alabama. And I moved in the middle of the school year. First day of class, they were like, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I was like, what is the pledge? It was scary. I was like, what is this? But I honestly, over time, I understood the history of the country better, understood and got to be really close friends with people. And I think I just really learned a lot about myself and a lot about the US and how rich the culture is. And I gained an appreciation for my own identity. And before I was trying to kind of blend in, but they kind of didn't let me blend in. They're like, you're different. So it kind of gave me an attitude of, I'm always going to be me. And you know what I mean? I feel like I'm a very independent person. And I think that's probably what
I can
what drove
imagine that.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to your college. Tell us a little bit more about that. You went to Caltech.
I went to Caltech
For a computer science degree, yeah?
Yeah.
And how was it there? Like, did you always want to be in tech?
Yeah.
Always a nerd? Proud nerd or what? Because my first guest, Shubhankar, he said I'm a proud nerd. So I'm just trying to ask you that.
I'm a proud nerd for sure.
Okay.
The question of have I always been a nerd is a good question. I think it was also in Alabama that I started to take academics seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to Alabama, to be honest, I didn't really care much about grades. I was not a good student. I wasn't a bad student. I was always like in the gifted programs and stuff, but I never was really ambitious or anything. But I had a really good math teacher in 7th grade that literally sat me down after class and would walk through problems with me and say like, hey, you're really smart, you can do this. And that's when I started to have an appreciation for math, and then that carried on through the rest of my classes that I took. So physics, biology, etc. And so at Caltech, I actually wanted to study math or physics, so I did not want to do computer science. I was in physics.
And it's known for physics.
It's known for physics, yes, right? So I'm like, let me do physics.
Yes.
I wanted to be some sort of physicist or astronaut or academic.
Yes.
I did research at a lab right before I got on campus, like really cool astrophysics work. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a physicist. And I get into a class, and there are people in my class that are like international physics Olympiad, like winners. And I'm like, we're going through things really fast, and I went to a random school in Missouri, and I'm like, I feel like I'm not qualified to be in this class. So I struggled. I got a poor score in one of my classes, and I was like, okay, if I want to keep a decent GPA here, like I cannot be a physics major.
Yes.
And to be honest, I had taken a CS class first quarter, and I just really liked the idea of like being able to build something and the creativity I could have within computer science. Whereas physics is more just kind of like physics.
Yes.
So I switched to computer science, and I loved it.
I can imagine that. So it's funny you say that. So the schooling system I went through in Iran for my middle school and high school was a kind of a designated schooling system, nationally sponsored for gifted students. You had to take some exams to be able to get in. And then during high school, then we had some of these classmates of ours that were going into these Olympiads. Especially my school, my hometown was very much known for astronomy Olympiad. And then we had some of the gold medalists nationally and internationally who came from my school. I sat with them in some classes. I was involved in astronomy Olympiad as well. Never went through with it. It was too much studying. I've never been the kind for studying, exactly. But I did tip my toes a little bit into that and saw these people. And then when I went to my undergraduate college, which I think you've had some maybe professors from that college as well, Sharif. And there, these people were all there, yeah? So math, physics, chemistry, astronomy, like and computer as well. Yeah. All these Olympiad winners, nationally and internationally, with like multiple medals were there. And that was very intimidating. And I remember this guy was like, we had this second semester, we had a course called Math 2, or Mathematics 2, and it was a bunch of like random integrals and like super duper complicated and stuff. And this roommate of mine, he would just flip through the pages. He would read a math textbook for a math final exam by just flipping through the pages.
Crazy, smart people
not putting it on a paper. Like I never saw him scribble anything. I never saw him do any like problem sets or anything like that. And then he just flipped through, went to the test, and tests in Iran are out of 20.
Oh, wow.
And he got 22. So there was a bonus question. He got that as well.
Oh my god.
And I failed, I think, if I remember correctly. I miserably failed. I got maybe like a 5 or something from 20, and then the next semester is how I passed it. It was messed up, yeah. And then you see these people, and I'm sure in Caltech you would have had that.
A lot, and honestly, it's funny because I also knew someone that, well, not really like really similar. He would just like, because we had computers, so he just like for a lot of the textbooks, he would just like scroll through it. He'd be sleeping at 9 p.m. and I'm like pulling an all-nighter. We take the test and he aces it, and I'm just like, okay. So yeah.
Different ballgame for some people, I can imagine. Yeah. But then, speaking of Caltech, I have to ask this question.
Yeah.
How much was Big Bang Theory an influence on you? and a motivation for you to go to that university. For many, it could be actually counterproductive or a counter motivation. They wouldn't want to be in an environment like that.
It's funny because I saw Big Bang Theory. Honestly, they seem like really smart. Honestly, I just wanted to be around like really smart people.
Yes.
That are building really cool things. Like I was just super excited. I wanted to work for like I told you like I wanted to like physics stuff like astronomy like do some rockets. So I mean it influenced me positively, I would say. In my mind, I was like MIT or Caltech will get me like those kind of people. I want to be around real nerds that like love doing puzzles and building things, and I found it. And Big Bang Theory, I think. In my mind, like that's, I know it's like some people wouldn't want to go because of that, but that was kind of the vibe I was looking for. So
yes.
I got what I wanted, honestly.
So was it true? Like, did you have people like that there?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say that those were like my close friends. Definitely at Caltech, I was on more of like the social side, like more socially
active.
Yeah. But there were definitely people like that, and people even more interesting.
Do you have any crazy stories, anything funny you want to share, any friends or anything like that?
So at Caltech we have, I don't know how much people don't know much about Caltech. It's a very small school.
I can imagine.
And we have like a housing system. It's kind of like, not like frats, but like, it's kind of like Harry Potter. You kind of, you rank the houses, you visit all of them, then you get sorted into a house. My house had a lot of extremely smart people who were extremely like crazy. So there was this guy that like he was working for like the NSA. He was like TAing a bunch of classes. He was like, really good at like the guitar. He like made music. He would like break. This is a really weird thing. He would like break chairs in like our courtyard. He would like he just did a lot of. Sorry, this doesn't make any sense, but he was like really genuine,
eccentric,
very eccentric guy.
Yeah.
He had a tattoo of. He had a tattoo of, at the end of proof, you say, oh my gosh, I forgot what the tattoo was. But he has like a math
tattoo, yeah?
Like he was committed. And it's really hard to explain, but he had just so many interesting views on like the world and was like always like moving, like never sitting still. Loki's pupils are always dilated. It's like, I think he's all crazy. But that's just someone I think of at Caltech that I'm like, I have another friend that's actually here at Stanford doing his PhD in physics. He's like producing music using like modulation of waves and sine waves and all that like weird stuff.
Wow.
But they're great, amazing, fun people, and I really learned a lot from them. And yeah.
How was the partying scene in Caltech?
Great question. Great question. Honestly, I would say we had something called interhouses, so that's when all the houses would throw a really big party. I think people at Caltech were generally like studying, so whenever we had parties, people went super hard. So we like interhouse. You kind of like construct your own stage. So it's really nerdy again.
Oh, okay.
We have like a theme. We'll build up a stage. We'll like have really on-theme decorations.
Yes.
Really like curated playlists, and then people from the other houses can come and dance there. So there's a lot of construction and engineering and how we parties.
Of
really
course.
Nerdy.
Of course.
Really nerdy, but I would say people, honestly, the parties for me, by the way, I'm a nerd, were really fun. I think people kind of just let loose. I think everyone at Caltech knows they're nerd, so they don't really feel like they feel like they can be themselves. So if you're going to the party, you're just kind of
let loose.
Letting loose.
Just go with the flow enjoy. Party it out.
Exactly. And people drink a lot. I think engineers drink a lot, so there's a lot of drinking. But that was much, yeah.
Okay, I can imagine. But then how? Because we talked initially about community. Identity, race, ethnicity, and all that stuff. How did that kind of evolve through Caltech? Like, what was the representation there? Like, how did the class look? How did the university look? And how did you feel personally there?
Yeah, that definitely was a big thing I struggled with, especially when I started out. So I came in and I joined with this other Black woman, and she actually left for a little bit. So for a lot of the time at Caltech, I was the only Black woman in my class, actually.
Seriously?
Yeah. So within.
You mean within your major, or?
Our class is really small. We have classes of 250, so just me. So yeah, within my class.
And
a lot of the classes I took the only black. I'm gonna be the only black woman, obviously, because I am the only one in my class. A lot of the things that I was facing, like in terms of imposter syndrome, I felt like I was visibly different, and I felt like sometimes I felt like I had to prove myself to people to be taken as seriously as other people.
But wasn't it like an international? Like I would imagine you would have a bunch of probably Indians, Chinese, Iranians, some other like nationalities and stuff.
It was very international.
Okay, so did that help?
That did help. I would say, like, I did find community, but I just think that within the black space, I just definitely did not feel represented. And obviously it's a reflection, unfortunately, of what STEM looks like today.
Yes.
And it did help me, unfortunately, when I went on teams and I was the only black person. It did prepare me for what STEM looks like. Since the campus reflected what the industry looked like.
Industry looks like, yeah.
But it was kind of hard, honestly, in a way, because for the first time, like, because I told you I was the only black girl in my class in Canada, but for the first time it was like, I also felt like I had to really prove myself, in which I didn't have to. But then I also got involved with the black scientists and engineers at Caltech. Later on, I helped with admissions efforts. Like whenever the younger people came in, we started seeing a lot more black students coming in. So I think everything's doing better now. But it was definitely a little bit difficult, I would say.
I can imagine.
Yeah, just a weird self-esteem situation.
I can imagine. But then what happened afterwards? Like I think, did you make a decision to go for an MBA program while you were at Caltech?
Yeah.
You did. And so you applied to the kind of a 2+2 program or deferred enrollment, because each university, each MBA program has a different name for it, maybe. Yeah. What is it called for Stanford? It's 2+2?
I think it's just the deferred, they don't have a name.
Deferred
it's like
admission?
Stanford deferred enrollment or something.
Okay.
Something, yeah.
Why was that? Like, why did you make that decision?
Yeah.
I don't think it was very orthodox coming out of Caltech with your background, whatever you wanted to do and all that stuff. How come?
Great question. And it's funny because, not many people do MBAs coming out of Caltech. I wanted to do a PhD in computer science and machine learning focus. I actually got my rec letters. I submitted my applications. I was visiting schools. And I genuinely would be talking to these professors, and what I wanted to do was to use machine learning, because I did some research where I was using machine learning in the diagnostics fields or using it for other interesting applications. I thought within the PhD I would have the opportunity to just build things and then apply it to problems, which is not what a PhD is. So I would talk to professors, and I think I applied because that's what everyone else was doing. Everyone applies to PhD programs. So I was like, okay, I'll do a PhD as well. And I was visiting these professors and talking to them, and they're telling me what I'd be doing every day, and they were asking me questions. And I was like, I don't think I am, and I've talked to other people, and I'm like, I don't think that I'm built for this, honestly. I realized that it's just not for me. And I talked to someone about, what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I want to build something, I want to make a difference. And they were like, that sounds like an MBA. Like, PhD is not where to go. And then I did research on the deferred program. And actually, I found out about the deferred program through a company that someone in our class, Arinze, started. It's called Early Admit. I found out about the deferred enrollment process. I did one session with them, and then I applied, and then I got in. So I was really
That's awesome.
excited.
But it's interesting that so your change of heart was towards an MBA, not like, okay, not a PhD, let me just go out, do whatever I want to do, get a job and stuff. And some people a few years down the road then come to this realization that they want to do an MBA. But for you, it was there, okay, I want to continue my education. If it's not PhD, I want to know what I want to do. And it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
How many years did you have to work afterwards?
So you can enroll 1 to 4 years. I took the 2 years. Yeah.
And what did you do?
I worked as a software engineer at Facebook. I was hit by the really fun layoffs after all the new hires got laid off, so we got laid off. And then I went to work at an aerospace company called AeroVironment, where I worked on drone software technology.
And that is something that you could at least imagine you would want to do, yeah? Like build stuff, cool stuff, some puzzles, something tangible, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually true. I loved building stuff, but honestly, the reason why I wanted to do the MBA was I felt that I was purely implementing and I wasn't really doing much of the vision of like, what can we build? You know, what do people want? Like, how can we meet their needs? I felt like I was genuinely just like, hey, we need this done. They just like pass it down to me and I'm just like the little like code person that does it.
I can imagine that.
But I had a lot of fun. It was great. I just felt like I wanted more autonomy and to be more of a director / leader in the space.
So within those 2 years that you were working in industry, both Facebook and then in that kind of aerospace company, did you ever have any doubts about your MBA, or were you completely like laser focused? Oh, I'm here just to get a bit of experience, earn a bit of money, and then kind of fill up my 2 years and just be out of here?
No, I definitely approached it more of to be open. Honestly, like I was like, okay, if I really like this, I will not do the MBA, right? This is a chance for me to get different experiences, see what it's like to work. And, you know, if I really love it, like this is what I'll do. But I think that I kind of, honestly, it was a good playing ground to validate my own hypothesis about myself, which was that it's very hard for me to feel satisfied at just working.
Yes.
I wanted to like build something and I want to have more of I want to be more of a director than an implementer.
Yes, I can imagine.
And that was very obvious.
Visionary, like trend setting, direction setting, and all that stuff.
Exactly.
So you get in, you come here. I know you're young enough for me to be able to ask this question. How old are you?
I'm 24. I just turned 24.
You just turned 24,
Yeah, 2 months ago.
I remember that. Yeah. I was there for the birthday. Somewhere in this building, I think. Are you the youngest student in the class, or at least one of the like 2 or 3 youngest? Yeah,
I think there are maybe a couple other 24-year-olds, but in terms of like the birthdays, I'm the youngest. So yeah.
Are you?
I think so, unless someone else can tell me if they are. But,
wow. Yeah. And how does that feel?
I thought it'd be more. Honestly, it was intimidating coming in. I didn't want people to know how old I was, by the way. So I was just like, people figured it out. They're like, you graduated in 2022. You must be young. It was intimidating in a way because I'm coming in with people with years of work experience. I'm coming in with people with years of not just work experience, just life experience, leadership experience. They've met a lot of different people that I haven't met. But when I started to think of it less as something they have that I don't, I tried to think of it more as like, okay, I can learn the people that have more life experience than me. And also I think I represent Gen Zs. So I'm also bringing in a little bit of a perspective of what a lot of the new people coming in are going to kind of look like in terms of, you know, just general attitudes about life and about the world. So I'm learning how different I am culturally from people that are a bit older than me. And secondly, I'm learning from them, from their life experiences. And honestly, people tell me like, oh, I would never have thought that you're the youngest person.
No, your mannerisms and how you carry yourself, it doesn't strike as that.
Okay,
this person being like way below the average age and stuff. So you totally have that maturity within your kind of conduct, and I think that works pretty well for you, and it will keep working well for you, I think, in the future. But like, how do you feel like since being at Stanford? How is it like? By the way, did you apply to a bunch of schools when you were thinking about this 2+2 program or whatever?
Yeah.
And why Stanford back then?
Yeah, I did apply to other schools, and I picked Stanford. Honestly, that was my top choice because of the entrepreneurial mindset. Because I'm a tech person, I wanted to be in Silicon Valley. And also just, I like the essay. Like they asked, you know, what was the question?
What matters most to you and why?
And I was like, wow. And I like sat and thought about it. You know, they were asking me real questions, and I felt like even in my interview, I was talking to a person that was very similar to me, very technical background. I was a leader at Google, Black woman. And the questions she was asking me were less of like, what have you done? And more of like, what do you care about, you know?
Yes.
And
same.
It really pushed me to think. And I, honestly, I just really liked, even in the essay, like the fact they pushed me to think. I like to watch a lot of the View from the Top things they did on YouTube. Actually, someone from my undergrad, a couple years above me, did the deferred program as well here at the GSB, and she loved it, it seems. So honestly, I was was like a no-brainer.
So the process felt also natural for you, and then
Felt
you
natural.
already discovered your connection to the school going through the process, which is very
Exactly.
important. Like, not a lot of the applicants will have the luxury of having that feeling. For many people, it's like, okay, let's just go ahead.
Yeah.
I have a list of 5 to 10 schools that I want to apply to. Whatever takes me and whatever top ones I can get in, then I can make a decision after that, and then try to understand which one fits me more. But then it was great that you had that feeling. But I also want to like understand. You initially wanted to go to MIT for undergrad, and you didn't get it. You went to Caltech.
Yeah.
Like when you were applying to MBA programs, did you give it a shot? Did you even think about it? Did you was like, I want to go and do it? Like, they rejected me, not anymore, or how did you approach that? I mean, they have a great MBA program.
They do.
As well.
They have. That's a great question. I actually didn't apply to MIT. Honestly, they broke my heart the first time. I was.
Oh, you're not one of those that gives a second chance. Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, I was truly heartbroken in high school when I didn't get in.
Yes.
It's funny because like not everyone can go to MIT. Also, Caltech was a great school.
Yes. Not everyone can go to Caltech.
Yeah. My logic back then was really bad, but I just I didn't apply. I'm not sure why I didn't apply. I think they have a different program. I might have just like missed the deadline or something. I kind of had my eyes set on like the GSB was like honestly the only school I actually really wanted to go to.
Had you visited the campus before?
I had visited the campus because I wanted to do a PhD.
Oh, okay.
Science.
Yes.
So I never saw the business school, but I walked around campus and everything. I also visited in high school, and I thought it was a great campus. I know a lot of like everything was basically started here. So yeah, I already kind of knew I wanted to be here.
Yes, I can imagine. You fell in love with
everything.
With the palm trees and the beautiful campus and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I can imagine. But then going back to my first question that I was asking about GSB, like how does it feel to be here, and how different it is from Caltech, the environment, the people, the type of conversations you're having, the caliber. Like, what do you think? Like, quite genuinely.
I'm just so thankful to be here. I feel like the people are very different. I think at Caltech, it's two very different kinds of people. I think it's just fundamentally how you think and view the world. I think at Caltech, it's a lot more of people. Both are very deep thinkers, but I think at Caltech you're thinking deeply about the physical laws of the universe. You're thinking very deeply about the mechanics behind systems, physical systems, or maybe like theoretical systems. But at Stanford, I think everyone I've talked to is thinking more about people. Like, I think people are more interested in how can we change, not to use our motto, but change organizations, how can you change lives? And I think I'm so thankful because it's really pushed me out of I'm a very like technical person, but I kind of had some of those attributes. So Stanford's really pushed me to think less about the mechanics of what I want to do or like the minute details of what I want to do, and more about the bigger picture. Like, people ask me things like, what are you passionate about? Like where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? Where do you want to see the world in 10, 15 years? And I think those are questions that nobody will ever ask you that at Caltech. Never. They might ask you like, where do you see like, I don't know, where do you see AI? I don't know.
This and that technology.
Yeah, nonsense.
Yeah.
Not nonsense, but like, where do you see that in 10 years? Whereas I think at Stanford, they're more, people zoom out a lot more and think of it in terms of people. I think we're more interested in human beings. So.
And then on a macro level and the vision and how the life is gonna evolve and all that stuff. I can imagine. Would you say it's also a lot more diverse on different dimensions?
Yes. I think it's a lot more diverse, obviously.
Not only like ethically and whatever, but also like professionally and experiences.
Many different walks of life, There are people like you, coming from consulting, but with a very technical background and like academic background. And then there are people in finance. By the way, before coming to the GSB and being interested in business school, I've never talked to a private equity person, or like I did not know what that was. Like, nobody at Caltech is talking about that. I'm telling you, like, nobody is thinking about that. So being exposed to people from Wall Street, exposed to people from building rockets that I'm used to, people,
nonprofits, like media,
everybody.
There's diplomacy, we have a bunch of diplomats in the class.
Right?
Yeah.
Veterans that have served and done all these really cool things. So I'm just so thankful. Like, every single person I talk to, more than like 5 minutes, I learned something crazy about them, and I'm like, wow, like he really pushed me to think about this in a different angle.
Yes.
Yeah, just so many perspectives and experiences in one building, in one classroom. So
exactly.
Really cool.
I don't know if you have this feeling, but like you've been a part of Caltech. I've been a part of the MIT/Caltech of my country.
Yeah.
In fact, the school that I was in was modeled after MIT when it was built or established like some 50 plus years ago. And we've been among like the smartest of our communities and our societies and stuff. But I've never been in an environment that feels as curated as GSB. To me, it feels very curated.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the major motivations for me to kind of start this podcast and this series, and let's take it out and put it out there for people to understand what kind of people we're dealing with here, it's fantastic, yeah? I don't know if you have that feeling of like this environment is curated and that the admissions office is doing a really good job in like understanding what kind of a community to put together.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I think everyone has a unique story to tell, and everyone, even if they're figuring out what they want to do in their future, I think they are uniquely positioned to either A, like help out their peers, or B, solve a problem in the world because they know it very intimately, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I think the admissions did a great job. I was kind of confused, like, why did I get into Stanford? And I realized, like, it's a lot of conversations, like, oh, I do have experiences and views of the world that are different from a lot of other people. And I do have things to add in conversations, even if I've only worked 2 years versus someone that's worked maybe like 10, 15 years. I think that beyond just professional experience, people, by the way, are from like every part of the globe, like people are from everywhere. People have had so many unique experiences, so many unique family experiences. I think talk, honestly, for me, where, you talk for, I think it's like 20 minutes, you share your story and everyone kind of listens to you. For me, kind of highlighted just how curated our class is and how much everyone has to offer and how our experiences have shaped who we are. I don't know, I think
no, I totally understand.
They did a great job.
Do you think it feels better to be here also when it comes to the Black community? We have a lot. We have the ones that are from America, and then we have a lot from Africa, actually, and then other parts of the world that contribute to the community. Does it feel better? Does it feel like more like home, or do you feel more connected?
Yeah, I think the BBSA here is, making a lot of efforts to...
If you could just tell us what our abbreviation is.
Oh, sorry. BBSA is the Black Business Student Association. I hope that's correct. They, it's across MBA 1s and MBA 2s. They organize events and, for connecting us with other... I actually have a mentor through that program that's an MBA 2, that's also Nigerian American, similar background. She's great. I do think that it's more curated. I do think that there's a long way to go in terms of even in business spaces, like representation as well. But I do think that I do feel very connected, encouraged. By the way, everyone is like, at Stanford, everyone's amazing, but within BBSA as well, everyone's just like so impressive. I've learned so much from everyone. And they've really encouraged me. Like sometimes I'm like not having a good time and, they push me. So I think compared to Caltech, where I wish someone...
I think it's magnitudes different, and at least in terms of that community, and then having Black representation in the class. Yeah. But you early on, when you were talking about Caltech, you touched upon imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. And you talked about how you felt like you had to prove yourself. Even sometimes people have problems with having affirmative action and then have people look at them because of affirmative action, but it seems that the lack thereof it also was a kind of a different type of problem because the society has assumptions, and then that was one type of imposter syndrome. Did you have it here as well, except for your age, or do you still have it, you still experience it?
Definitely. To be very transparent, yes, because we have like amazing people in this class. Same. And sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like I did as much. Obviously, like the 2 years of work experience is one thing. Then not having a financial background or not knowing things other people just know. Yeah, definitely still have imposter syndrome, but I try to use that as, to be honest, in my past, like at Caltech, I think the reason why I was successful at Caltech was because I didn't I didn't let the imposter syndrome weigh me down. I kind of let that push me to do more. And that's what I'm hoping to do here too. You know, yes, these people are amazing, but I can learn from them. Like, I have access to amazing people, you know what I mean? So,
Yes.
And that doesn't take away from me. Someone else being amazing doesn't make me any less amazing. It just means that they're amazing. So that's how I'm trying to approach it.
I actually take it a step further.
Yeah.
I really like that someone else is amazing. Not that it doesn't take anything away from me. It actually gives me something. It means like if I'm sitting at the table with these same people, so I'm sitting at the table with these same people. Yeah,
True.
I'm on my level with them. You know what I mean? So it actually helps. Like, who wouldn't want their teammates to be great if they are a part of that team?
Yeah.
It also means that you're good enough, you're great enough, you're competent enough to be able to be a part of that group, and that really helps me. Again, that is one of the reasons I want to have this podcast, that people know what kind of people we are dealing with, because that's a reflection of my personal quality or your personal quality as well. And just like yourself, very grateful. I have doubts every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened? What happened? Yeah, for sure. I think you had an endeavor with a startup or with an entrepreneurial idea.
Yeah.
What was that? When was that? How did it go? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, for sure. I started this with my cousin was my co-founder and two friends. We were really interested in getting together and building something, and we started it in July. I want to say July of 2023. So while I was still working as a software engineer, what we were interested in solving was so we pivoted. So initially, we were interested in solving essentially demand prediction, demand forecasting for restaurants. And then we quickly pivoted to the data curation space, essentially looking at how to support startups that want to implement human-in-the-loop training, reinforcement learning, essentially on a high level. In order for machine learning models to work, you need your data formatted in a very specific way, right? So, for example, if you're doing computer vision and you want to detect a cat from a dog, what the model needs to see is a picture of a dog with the label dog and a picture of a cat with the label cat. When you're working with really unstructured or humongous data sets, it's actually kind of expensive to get that data sourced and or curated and annotated, things like that. Usually what they do is they'll send it out to third world countries and have agencies that will charge maybe $10,000, and people will sit in rooms
manually just go through it.
Manually go through it. Right? Yeah. So what we were looking at was simplifying that process so that it doesn't cost that much. B, providing and those people, that's their full-time job. When they get to the office at 8 and they go to bed at 8 p.m., they're labeling data sets. We wanted to make a sort of system where contributors could do it part-time and wouldn't have to be sitting in a room. And we could use maybe scale to allow the same exact data set to be labeled at the same rate. So what we did is we built an app called Zulo, and we had Nigerian contributors that could part-time be annotating and or providing feedback on data sets. And then we had a collective intelligence model where instead of, because also data quality is if you're labeling millions of data sets, at the end of the day, if your eyes are shutting, you might label something wrong, where people could check other people's labels and make sure that it was correct. And then we would send it back. So we were finding that our turnaround rates were way faster than those agencies, and we're also able to charge at a cheaper rate than them because we're distributing it over more people.
Sounds great. Yeah.
So reasons why it didn't work out. So I learned a lot about entrepreneurship. As a software engineer, I very naively thought if I just build something, then that means people want it. So I built this thing out. I built our MVP really fast, 2 weeks. Crazy, stayed up all night, all these kinds of things. Shipped it. And then we're like, wait a minute, we have no customers. We have no startups that want to work with us. So then we spent the rest, and we were actually in an incubator. Very thankful. It's called Next AI. It's a AI focused incubator in Toronto that had like 18 startups from across Canada. And my cousin's in Canada, which is why I said across Canada. So we had the support, and we would go to our venture advisor every week, and they'd be like, so like, where are your customers? Like, what? And I'm like, oh, maybe we should have thought about that, because I was coming in very naively. So essentially, we were able to find people that were interested. We did some testing with contributors. But essentially what ended up happening is we built out this amazing app that I can add to my collection of things I've built. But we had no customers. So that's literally what happened. Also, a second thing, the reason I kind of highlighted the fact my co-founder was my cousin, I think there were some relationship dynamics that I will not found anything, not that work with my cousin wasn't great. I just realized that sometimes it's important to build with somebody that maybe you're not super, super close with. Just because it's easier to, when you have an issue, it's easier to say, to keep it professional. It's
keep
really
those boundaries intact. It's
kind of hard to separate professional and family bounds. If we are arguing, our family's going to know. But it was great. We presented our project. We built it out. We launched it. We worked with like maybe 5 startups. But at the end of the day, I think that we realized that our business model didn't really make sense because when you're working with, when your entire value add is human labor, it's kind of hard to scale. And also what was happening was our quality check model, people could just like spam it with bullshit and get, could spam it with nonsense and then get like paid for it. You know what I mean? And then like even if people are checking for them, they would just not actually check. There are a lot of like economic, it was really interesting. I feel like I could write a paper about it. The economics of the whole situation. But I did learn a lot about, identifying a problem, maybe first understanding that it is a problem, which I didn't do. And then like the process of deciding how to build it out. And then another thing that happened was infrastructure. So I think once again, as a software engineer, if you don't think big picture, you're gonna run into problems. So I built it out, really not thinking about, I was just more interested in, at Facebook we say, build fast, break things. Like I was really thinking about just getting something out there. But then what happened is like 50 people would make a request to our servers at the same time. And I couldn't figure out how to queue those requests. So I'm like working backwards, like, oh no, I didn't think about this, I didn't think about that. So didn't think about infrastructure at scale. And there's actually a class I'm taking right now, CS123, infrastructure at scale. And it's a lot of great, amazing guest speakers, which is why I'm happy to be at Stanford, so I can learn from people that know how to do it. So I had to learn more.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, learning more in a business mindset and not just so much as I'm used to like making things and deploying them, but I think I wasn't really as interested in
the business side of it.
Business side of like people actually going to use it.
But that's why you're here. That's what you're here for. Exactly. But shifting gears, I know that you have a lot of musical talent. Actually, if I recall correctly, I saw you singing to a bunch of random karaoke songs on a boat off the shore of Tokyo with a few glasses of wine in you. But still, you were amazing. Tell me a little bit more. Like, is music a part of your life still?
Absolutely. I started playing the piano when I was 3.
As you do.
I hated it though. But I honestly, like, I think I hated it then, but I'm so thankful because music is a big part of my life. I do some like music production on the side. I'm learning how to DJ. I'm still waiting for one of our GSB classmates to get back to me on a rate so that I can get some classes. I love music. I also sing. I used to sing in my church choir. It also is something that gave me confidence. I think that before, like literally getting in front of people, holding a microphone and singing is really a hard thing to do. It is. And I think that when I joined my church choir in high school and I was like the lead, like I'm the person directing everybody and singing, I had to learn how to perform. Yes. But also how to ignore people's faces. Yes. Ignore what they might be thinking and just sing. And I think that has given me so much confidence. I love music. I listen to music all the time. I have a million playlists. I love every genre of music. Fun fact about me is what people wouldn't expect is one genre that I like is actually metal and rock. So I went with a classmate to a concert. We're hoping to get a group together to Warped Tour this coming year, which is an emo festival.
Yes.
So I'm into all kinds of music. I love music. I think it's just a great expression of yourself, of your emotions. I write music too. Maybe one day I'll release something.
Yes.
But like I love music, so that's definitely a huge part of me. I think number one thing, de-stressing.
Yes, music, I can imagine. One of the last questions is, it's been a great interview so far for me. I've learned a lot about you. Yeah. There are a lot of people, maybe a few years younger than you, maybe like 10 years younger than you, in high school, same background, same experiences. How do you think they should approach it? Like with the doubts, with belonging, with identity, especially. I don't know why, but the society is getting more polarized and more extreme. And then I can imagine it would be a tough thing to be a kid in this day and age. What is your word for them?
Don't lose sight of what you want to do. Mm-hmm. I had really, obviously I'm not an astronaut right now, but I had really big dreams, growing up. And I think that if I'd listened to all the people or all the feelings within myself that told me that I wouldn't be able to execute, I would not be where I am now. They're going to be, don't be afraid to take risks. I think the reason I'm here is because somewhere in my mind, I thought I deserved to be here, right? You only apply here if you think you can be here. So if there's a door, even if you think that door might be locked, try to open it, basically, is what I would say. Shoot your shot, honestly. I have took so many risks. I ran for student body president in undergrad, didn't think that would happen, and I got elected, and I was like, oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Realizing that if you don't know what you can do unless you try. And I think that when you and like you said, I think society has expectations of you. Maybe you start to internalize those expectations. So I would say that life is short. Just do what you can.
Give it all.
Give it all. Challenge yourself. Sorry, this might not be a good answer, but also I would say find a community. I think it's important to find and or build a community. At Caltech, I did say that I was one of the only black women in my class. But I also found community outside of Caltech through church, through going to Afrobeats events, going through Black Women in LA events. So I would just say even if you can't find that community,
where exactly you are,
go and find it. It's really important to just have a safe space where you can talk about things you're experiencing as a result of your identity. And I think that combined with just doing what you can, I think is why I'm where I am. And also don't care what people think about you. I think that's probably one of my biggest strengths. I literally do not care. So I do whatever. People can talk. If you know where you're going, you know where you're going. And care what people think, but care about other people. But if you know who you are, then it doesn't, no one else's opinion can really shape what you think about yourself.
Yes, I can imagine. I know it's a daunting question almost. What is next?
Really?
And you can say, I don't know, yeah? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
But is there a thing that you're passionate about? Is there a thing you think about? Is there kind of an industry or a space you want to contribute towards?
Yeah. So I don't know what I'm doing, but there are things I'm very passionate about. 100% I want to build on the continent. So I want to go back to Nigeria, and I think there are so many opportunities. It's going to be hard. There are a lot of infrastructure issues, there are a lot of political issues. But I do think that I know so many, the smartest people I know are family members or people I've talked to in Nigeria that just don't have access to resources or opportunities that I have. So in a way, I feel like my whole life, I just want to pay it back. I didn't talk much about my dad or my mom, their stories, but my dad grew up in a village and was didn't think he'd be able to make it out here. He was smart, he worked hard, but unfortunately, he didn't feel like we would have the opportunities needed to succeed if he stayed in Nigeria.
I can imagine.
So he left, right? He left with nothing, actually no money, right? He had to build himself from the ground up. I saw them struggle to be where they are now. And they're still struggling even to this day, right? So, and that's kind of why I feel like they would love to go back and live there. And I think that there's a lot of an idea of like, oh, you have to leave to be successful. I want people to feel enabled where they are. And I think there's so many things that need help, need fixing, and need help on the continent. And that's just what I'm interested in helping with. So particularly, I think my grandfather had a cocoa farm in Nigeria. So I'm really interested in helping, and I did some work with smallholder farmers in Central America. So what I'm actually interested in, one of the things, I say different things every time, but I'm really interested in it now, is kind of supporting the distribution and of their products to distributors, and supporting like product optimization, precision agriculture. That's one thing I'm kind of interested in. I'm also working on a startup idea right now with Reyes. You actually interviewed him as well. There's so many things in my brain.
I can imagine. I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's a part of being a person who is here. I mean, I think everyone you talk to, they usually have these different things going on, and then there's some profound ideas and some passions that they're trying to juggle. Basically.
That's literally me. I have a million things going on in my head.
Tell me about that. But I like this tone, this theme of empowerment and enablement, so that your decision to immigrate is one of pure choice and not one of fleeing, because that is what I experience with my own community, with my society, with Iran. A lot of the people that you talk to, especially the youth, even now it's beyond youth as well, they want to just leave. And they want to leave for better opportunities, but also almost none of them want to go back. And that's escaping, that's fleeing, and that is not a healthy way of immigrating. I would say a healthy way of immigrating is that, you could have a good life here. There is abundance of opportunities and things you could do, but you want to experience something else. You want to see maybe a tad bit of a better opportunity there, or you want to experience just living in that country. But you don't feel like, okay, if I go, I'm done. I'm not going to be able to go back. I shouldn't go back. If I go back, my next generation would not have a good life. That is something I want to help get rid of as much as I can.
Absolutely.
So if you want to go somewhere, it's just because it's cool. You want to go there, you want to be there. You're a Canadian, you come to the US. You're American, you go to Germany, but you can always come back to the US. But I know from people like us from the countries that we come from, oftentimes when people leave, it's only a one-way street.
You don't want to come back.
They don't want to come back, and then everyone within the country thinks the only way up is out, which it shouldn't be the case. Exactly. I hope you get to do that. I hope you get to also be in the motherland, as we say it, experience it, do some stuff there, contribute, be on the ground. I would love to help in any way I can.
Thank you.
And I think you would be very inspiring for a lot of people back in Nigeria. Young girls, young boys, it would be very interesting to have that community aspect going on. I'm sure you'll find your way of doing that. But I'm sure it's going to be great.
Thank you.
It was great talking to you. I always say at the end of my sessions and my interviews that an Odyssey is a journey. Starts at home often. A lot of ups and downs. The hero goes through a lot of challenges, a lot of learning, a lot of growing, and then it often finally ends at home. There is a homecoming. And you have started your Odyssey. It seems like your homecoming at some point will be in Nigeria. You'll have that, and I'm sure it's going to be a great journey.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Absolutely. Thank you.